Welcome inside the War Room. I'm your host, Andrew Valancourt, and we're back today for episode 58 of the Dynasty War Room podcast. On today's show, we are going to conclude our positional previews ahead of the NFL draft and discuss this year's tight end class. So I have my top 8 tight ends in this class broken down into tiers, and so we're going to go through those players, got some stats and other numbers for you to get you fully ready to go for your rookie drafts, which are now fast approaching with the NFL draft just a couple weeks away. So as always, before we get into the episode, make sure you're following this podcast on your platform of choice. We're on everything out there, whether you listen on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Amazon, you name it, we're there. So go make sure you're following the show so you don't miss any future episodes. If you feel inclined, I would very much appreciate your time to leave a 5-star review. That helps the show out a lot, so I greatly appreciate it. And go find us on social media. We're on Twitter or X at Dynasty War Room. You can find me on Blue Sky at Andrew V. Court. We have a Facebook page, and then go subscribe on YouTube as well, and you can follow along there. So with all that being said, let's jump on into today's episode, talking about this year's tight end class, which is a pretty solid class, especially at the very top, with our first 2 players that we're going to talk about. They're in tier 1 together. And we'll kick things off with a bit of a hot take, and that is that I have I have Michigan tight end Colston Loveland as my number 1 tight end in the class, albeit by an extremely slim margin. I think that Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren out of Penn State are essentially 1A, 1B, both very good prospects, should be very good NFL players. Colston Loveland, to me, is the more consistent, solid player across the board as a pass catcher. I think he's a smoother route runner. I think he is someone that has the ability to separate at an elite level, get open for his quarterback, and he's a couple years younger than Tyler Warren as well. So he just turned 21. Tyler Warren is about to turn 23. So just under a 2-year age gap. Pretty similar players in terms of size. Colston Loveland is 6'6", 248 pounds. Whereas Tyler Warren is 6'6", 256 pounds. So pretty similar. And so Tyler Warren, of course, is my number 2. They're both in the same tier. I think it's worth discussing them together. And because these are the 2 players that will likely go in the first round of your rookie drafts, especially if you're in a tight end premium league, which is the format that I play in. My position is that both of these guys should be first-round picks, and I think given some of the uncertainty at wide receiver and the unknowns with the running backs in terms of how many players might go in the first round, second round, and whatnot, Loveland and Warren are 2 players that could sneak into the middle of your first round. I mean, there's a realistic scenario where you could take one of these players as early as 105 in a rookie draft. I think that they fit somewhere in that 6 to 11 range at the moment, just depending on landing spots and how things shake out at the other positions. But both tight ends absolutely worthy of a first-round rookie pick. Both players projected first-round picks in the NFL draft. Tyler Warren is expected to be the first player off the board and is getting some hype to go in the top 10. Reports out this week where that the Jets have done their homework on him. There have been rumors about the Saints. And then, of course, when you get into the teens and the 20s, a whole lot of other teams looking at tight ends, namely teams like the Colts at 14, the Chargers certainly could use a tight end as well. And there's that connection, the Harbaugh and Loveland connection from their days at Michigan. So a lot of good landing spots in this class for the top 2 tight ends. Now, Colston Loveland, in his final season at Michigan, coming out after his junior year, he was a 3-year starter. So high-level recruit, number 1 player out of Idaho, came in and took over the starting job right away, was an immediate impact player despite having other NFL tight ends on the roster. He only played in 7 games in 2024 due to injury. He did have shoulder surgery in the offseason that he's been recovering from. and so caused him to not work out at the combine. But he should be ready to go in time for training camp. I don't really have any injury concerns moving forward related to that. I believe it was an AC joint. And in his final season, in just 7 games, 56 receptions, 582 yards, 5 touchdowns. We mentioned that he's just 21 years old. And this is a guy who was Michigan's entire passing offense, essentially. I believe the stats from this year were that Loveland accounted for, I think it was 36% of Michigan's total receiving yards, and over 31% of the team share of receptions, which, given that he only played in 7 games and, was playing at a tight end position, not a wide receiver spot, those are really impressive numbers. All his analytical numbers in terms of yards per route run, target share, things like that, just really, really strong numbers. He's an elite separator. He's someone that always is able to get open. If you are someone that is a fan of The Athletic or Dane Brugler, who releases an NFL draft guide called The Beast every April, which is a very thorough, in-depth draft guide, I highly recommend you check it out. This year, his positional rankings are actually free, and then you can read the in-depth scouting reports if you do subscribe to that publication. And he had a pretty interesting comp for Colston Loveland that I think is a very good one, and it's prime Zach Ertz, someone who is an elite pass catcher. He runs routes well. He's always open. Not necessarily thought of as, the most physical player or an intense inline blocker. This is a player that spent a lot of time playing out of the slot at Michigan. He kind of was treated as a wide receiver in a way, and he was moved around the formation a lot. Disciplined player, and someone that I fully expect to become an impact, immediate starter in the NFL. And on the high end, we mentioned Zach Ertz as a comparison. I think kind of broadly speaking in terms of his style of play, Travis Kelce comes to mind as just someone that gets open. He's there for his quarterback, safety valve, can find the end zone, and is somebody that you can run an offense through. So Colston Loveland, very little separation to me between him and Tyler Warren. Of course, Warren has the superior production from their final season, but to me, it's a matter of separation and age. That's my tiebreaker here. And Colston Loveland just being a 3-year starter, somebody that got on the field immediately and was able to do it, that really appeals to me. And I think given the fact that the consensus has Tyler Warren as the number 1, you're going to be able to get Colston Loveland for a pretty good value in your rookie drafts. And so Loveland is atop my rankings here at the number 1 spot. And in tier 1 with Tyler Warren, who's at number 2. And so we'll discuss him a little bit more in detail here as well. And his most recent season out of Penn State was incredible. It was one of the best tight end seasons we've seen in a long time. 104 receptions, 1,233 yards, 8 touchdowns. He also ran the ball himself 26 times for 218 yards and 4 touchdowns. Penn State ran the Wildcat formation with him at times throughout the season, and he was very effective in that role. And, he is a little bit of an older prospect. He'll turn 23 in May, but has good size at 6'6", 256. He was a 2-year starter at Penn State. He did play 5 years in college, though. So when it comes to looking at early breakouts and things like that, that's where Loveland has an advantage. He got on the field sooner. He broke out earlier. He's still 2 years younger and has more time to grow into the position, which typically is a position in the NFL that does take some time to adjust to. It's pretty rare to see rookie tight ends just take over the position immediately like you sometimes see at running back or receiver. But we've had some exceptions the last couple seasons. Of course, Brock Bowers, the number 1 tight end, Sam Laporta, the number 1 tight end the year before. So we've been a little bit spoiled. I don't know that either Loveland or Warren will be in a position to do that this fall, but certainly should be able to start as rookies, which is generally an improvement compared to how the position was viewed in the past. So Tyler Warren is a more physical player than Colston Loveland. He is someone that has received a lot of comparisons to a George Kittle. and plays more in that style. So I think you can see just between the Kelsey Ertz comps for Loveland versus more of the Kittle comparison for Warren, you can kind of get a sense for their style of play. I don't know that either one is necessarily an above average blocker. So at least in that sense, I don't know that Warren quite lines up with Kittle. I think he certainly possesses the toughness and the physicality, but I just don't know that he's as an effective of a blocker. I don't know that either one of them necessarily is below average, but I don't know that they're necessarily a huge plus in that area either. So both, sufficient at blocking, could certainly use some improvement. I think that Warren could use a little bit of improvement in his route running. I don't think he's quite as crisp as Loveland, but again, Warren is probably a bit better in those contested catch situations and just kind of plowing through guys. I don't know that Colston Loveland is a player that is going to just, plow his way through multiple defenders and break tackles and get down the field. Whereas Warren is somebody, if you needed someone that's going to break tackles, Warren is somebody that's better at that than Loveland. But I just think Loveland's a little bit better at just getting open. However, this is not to say that there is some huge gap. Warren's numbers speak for themselves. He was essentially Penn State's entire passing offense. He was their number one receiver. And obviously, as evidenced by his 104 catches, really awesome numbers. My minimal concerns with him are, while he was a 2-year starter and he had decent numbers in 2023, nothing crazy, couple 100 yards, got his feet wet, but it did take him a long time to assume the role as starter and then break out. Now, in fairness to him, there were other NFL tight ends on the roster over the past few years. Penn State has been more of a low-key, good tight end school lately. And so he certainly had some other names there. Brenton Strange, Freiermuth a few years before that, Theo Johnson, guys like that were in the tight end room and making it difficult for Warren to break out. But nevertheless, it did take him 5 years to truly become an elite player in college. And so that worries me a little bit, but the production is so rare that I'm willing to overlook the late breakout. And, he won the award, Mackey Award, best tight end, and even was in the top 10 in Heisman voting, which is pretty rare for the tight end position as well. So 2 very, very good tight end options at the top of drafts this year. I fully would expect them both to be first-round Superflex tight end premium draft picks, and I'm expecting both to go in the first round of the NFL draft as well. Moving on to tier number 2, which has 2 different players in it for me, and we'll talk about first my number 3 player, and that's Mason Taylor, tight end out of LSU, projected second-round draft capital, although there have been some rumblings lately that he could move up into the first, which would be mildly surprising, but given the way that NFL scouts seem to like Mason Taylor, wouldn't be all that shocking if he sneaks in at the very end of the round. Last year at LSU, 55 catches, 546 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He is just shy of 21 years old, 20.9, 6'5", 246 pounds, and he was a full 3-year starter at LSU. He's entering the draft early. He got on the field right away. And so it's similar to Colston Loveland in the fact that I like that he was able to immediately step onto the field in college and was good enough to start over bigger, faster, just older players that are on the field in college. So that is certainly a nice thing to see. You've probably heard that he is, in fact, the son of Jason Taylor, a longtime NFL player. So definitely has the bloodlines. And given the fact that he has moved up in the draft consistently throughout the process, scouts seem to really like him. The numbers are solid. I mean, this isn't someone that totally had, an impressive stat sheet, right? This is not a Tyler Warren. This is not a Harold Fannin Jr., where he's getting 1,000 yards and all these things. There were other players in this LSU offense that, of course, last year with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, that he's sharing the field with. So never really the number one most elite option on the field for them, but nevertheless, still very productive. I do really like the 3-year starter, the fact that he's young. He's got a long time still here. He'll be 21 when the NFL season begins, so he's going to have time to continue his ascension at the position. And I see a world where he becomes a steady starter in the NFL at the position. We've seen a lot of second-round tight end picks work out over the years, and if he does get that draft capital, especially if he's early in the second, I'm going to feel pretty solid about him jumping into second rounds of rookie drafts. I don't think we're reaching the point where he's going to be in the first round. That's not, even if he were to go in the first round of the NFL draft, I don't see him touching the top 12 in a tight end premium rookie draft, but someone that could definitely move into the second. In my original rankings about a month and a half ago or so, he was looking more like a third-round rookie pick, but now I think things are working his way to where he could be a solid tight end pick if you miss out in the first round on the combo of Warren and Loveland. That Mason Taylor could make some fallback sense for you somewhere in the second round of rookie drafts. At number 4, and also in this tier, I've got Harold Fannin Jr., Bowling Green tight end, projected to go in the third round, and he's another young guy. So 3 of my top 4 players here all will be 21 years old when the NFL season begins. Currently, he is 20.7. He's a little bit undersized, 6'3", 241 pounds, was a 2-year starter at Bowling Green, but he is leaving early to go to the NFL. And his final season at Bowling Green was even more impressive than Tyler Warren's from a stat perspective. 117 catches, 1,555 yards, and 10 touchdowns, which are incredible numbers. And obviously there's going to be some worry here about the competition level. He's playing at Bowling Green in the MAC, but he also had 2 games this year against, big-time Power 5 schools, Power 4 schools now, I suppose, in Penn State and Texas A&M, and he had great numbers against both, had over 100 yards and touchdowns in each game, was the focal point of the offense there, and despite playing against those stronger defenses, still put on a show, was consistent the same way he's been throughout the entire season. So my fears for Harold Fannin Jr. are really not production related. The numbers show that he can do it. He is someone that is able to shake defenders and get open and avoid being tackled, despite the fact that he's not necessarily a great athlete. So his NFL Combine was a bit subpar. He was a little bit slower, and he certainly is a bit undersized at just 6'3". And so I think that's where my concerns come in, are less about his production in college and more about, will he be simply not a good enough athlete to succeed at a high level in the NFL? I think he's kind of a boom-bust type of prospect, and at the tight end position, you really do want those high upside players because, if getting an average to, a mediocre or average tight end in the NFL is not necessarily someone that you're plugging into your lineup every single week in fantasy. Whereas, you're shooting for those guys that are going to be top 5, top 10 options at the position. And Harold Fannin Jr. is somebody that can be that player. Now, the NFL might be out on him. He might fall to day 3 into the 4th or 5th round, and that would be a huge bummer. And I would have to bump him down the rankings should that be the case. But if he does go on day 2, and of course if he goes in the second round, that would be great. He would have a chance to jump Mason Taylor should that be the case. But if we assume third round draft capital, I will like him in third rounds of rookie drafts. He'll be somebody that I target, and because I do see the upside for a player of his caliber, and I think in the third round of rookie drafts, it's a great time to take shots on those guys that do have a high ceiling, considering that generally speaking, you only have about a 10% hit rate on third round picks anyways. So might as well take that shot on a guy that does have the upside to really be an impact player at his position. Moving on to my third tier, which is actually going to be my final tier here because my 5, 6, 7, and 8 ranked prospects are all on the same tier together. Some of this will come down to draft capital for these guys, but at number 5, I have Terrence Ferguson, tight end out of Oregon, projected third-round pick, and he's 22.1 years old, 6'5", 247 pounds. And last year at Oregon, he had 43 catches, 591 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And Ferguson is somebody that was a 4-year starter at Oregon. So, again, we're talking about guys here at the position. I really like the fact that some of these players can get on the field early. It shows a lot. And, Taylor being a 3-year starter, Loveland being a 3-year starter, Ferguson being a 4-year starter, getting on the field as freshmen. And Ferguson had pretty solid numbers. He was never someone that was going to blow you away from a production standpoint, but steady, consistent, a nice security blanket for his quarterbacks, and he had pretty solid athleticism as well. He had one of the best combines at the position, probably the best combine performance among the tight ends. Granted, Loveland and Warren did not compete in the combine events, but Ferguson had some nice speed. And athleticism is arguably the most important for fantasy purposes at tight end compared to some of the other offensive positions. And so given that he is a very good athlete, solid production, steady starter, I think that's a pretty good player to target, in the third round. And NFL teams, it looks like, will agree if he goes on day 2. So Terrence Ferguson, my number 5 tight end. Next up at number 6 is a player that I can't say that I love. I think the general consensus has him several spots higher, arguably in the 3-4 type of range, depending on where you look. And that's Elijah Arroyo, tight end out of Miami. And right now he's projected to go in the second round of the NFL draft. And he's 22 years old, 6'5", 254 pounds. Last year at Miami with Cam Ward, he had 35 catches, 590 yards, and 7 touchdowns. He missed almost the entire 2022 and 2023 seasons due to injury. He played a few games each year, but nothing significant there. He suffered some injuries, and really is a 1-year wonder at the position. And even his 1 year, you can make the argument that somebody like Tyler Warren was a 1-year wonder, but in reality, it's probably more of a 2-year thing. I think his really strong season at the end overshadows that, having 400 yards was still pretty solid for him in his first year as a starter, whereas Arroyo didn't have that. He's more of a 1-year wonder in the way of Gunnar Helm out of Texas, who we'll talk about soon. And he had this one final season at Miami where he was solid. He's an explosive player. He's more of a downfield threat than some of these other tight ends that we've talked about. He's not really somebody that is a player that you're targeting in the short passing game. He's more of a downfield threat. He does seem to have good size and speed and really good athleticism for his size. But he didn't run at the combine, so we don't have a 40 time, which is a bit frustrating for projection purposes. And he has durability issues. ACL injuries, just the fact that he missed most of 2 entire seasons. He played 5 years in college. He's just not someone that really stands out a ton to me. I get that the second round draft capital is going to be nice, assuming he gets that. But this is not a player that I will likely be taking a lot of shots on. I think that there's better bets for upside at the position, and that's really where I stand with him. I had an internal argument with myself about whether or not to have him at 6 or 7 in these rankings, but I think given the current projected draft capital, it makes sense to keep him at 6, kind of in the same area as Terrence Ferguson. And who knows, maybe the landing spot will be great, and I'll do a little bit more research on him in the meantime, and maybe my mind will change a little bit, but I will be absolutely stunned if he's able to move up too significantly in my rankings, because I'm worried about the durability, the injuries, the lack of production, and the fact that we don't have any testing numbers to back up the fact that he seems athletic on tape. So for those reasons, I will largely be out on Elijah Arroyo, and we'll let other people take him in my rookie drafts. At number 7, we're going to Oronde Gadsden II, tight end out of Syracuse, and he's the lowest rated tight end in terms of draft capital in my top 8. Projected 5th round pick right now. I would be surprised if he goes that late. I think he could sneak into the 4th and potentially even a little bit sooner. But Gadsden is someone that I view as more of a pure pass catcher. Last year, he had really good numbers at Syracuse. He's 21.8 years old, 6'5", 241 pounds, and he had 73 catches, 934 yards, and 7 touchdowns in a very pass-happy Syracuse offense. This is someone that also had some injury concerns like Arroyo, but this time instead of missing 2 full seasons, it was just 1. He missed 2023, but unlike Arroyo, Gadsden had a really good productive season before getting injured in 2022. So in his 2022 season, where he broke out, 61 catches for 969 yards and 6 touchdowns. So very similar numbers to his final season at Syracuse, and he gets open. He's a good separator, good route runner. He's not necessarily the strongest blocking tight end. He struggles a bit on the interior, played a lot in the slot early on before moving in a little bit in terms of inline play in his final season of college. But given that in fantasy football we care about the pass catching a whole lot more than any blocking ability, I think this makes him a worthwhile dart throw in your rookie drafts. I don't think you're going to have to burn a 3rd-round rookie pick on him. I think this is something that you can target in the 4th, which to me is a pretty solid area to take a shot on these athletic tight ends. He's got good speed, and think last year Theo Johnson was a player that was going in the 4th round, and kind of a similar idea to me in terms of, hey, this guy, if he lands in a spot where the depth chart would indicate he has a shot to win a job, certainly worth a late pick. And if not a pick in your rookie draft, I think a priority free agent for you on waivers. This could be somebody to target there. And last but not least, moving on to my number 8 tight end in the class, Gunnar Helm, tight end out of Texas, projected 3rd-round pick, and he's 22.6 years old, 6'5", 241 pounds, and last year at Texas, 60 receptions, 786 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And he was a 2-year starter at Texas, albeit his first year as a starter was a bit more limited. He didn't do a whole lot. I don't even know if I truly could call him a real 2-year starter. It was really more of a 1-year starter where, last year he kind of was more of a number 2 behind, other players there at Texas. Jatavian Sanders was there before him. So Gunnar Helm is someone that I think will be a good 4th-round rookie pick as well. So someone that has some production, over 700 yards receiving, has the size. I worry a bit about the speed and athleticism. Helm, if you remember, was the player at the combine that ran the 40, and it was like a 4.8, but then he revealed afterwards that he had just completely busted up his ankle. It was all swollen and sprained and whatnot. We never got an updated time. I don't think he ran at his pro day, so which probably makes sense if he's still recovering from that injury. But I'm a little bit worried there, given that we don't have a whole lot else to rely on. He was a one-hit wonder at the position, given the lack of production before 2024, and he's a little bit of an older prospect, but still nothing too crazy. Still under the age of 23, but I have mild concerns. And given that he's not an elite athlete and he doesn't have multi-year production of being a starter, he's not someone that I'm necessarily going to go out of my way to target. But again, if you're talking a later 4th-round pick or an undrafted free agent on the waiver wire, certainly could be a player to look at. I think that sometimes you can walk into some solid tight end production in the 4th round and on the waiver wire. I think that's a really good spot to look at the position, especially if you want a pass catcher, because wide receivers in that range of the draft, in terms of rookie drafts, typically don't do very well. It's very rare that we have fourth round picks in rookie drafts that turn into anything, whereas tight ends, you can sometimes get a little bit more value, especially if you're willing and able to be patient. And so that's where Gunnar Helm out of Texas fits in for me. So there you have it. That is my top 8 players at the position ahead of this draft. At the top in Tier 1, I have Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren. In Tier 2, at spots 3 and 4, I have Mason Taylor and Harold Fannin Jr. And then in Tier 3, with picks or spots 5 through 8, Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon, Elijah Arroyo out of Miami, Oronde Gadsden, the second out of Syracuse, and Gunnar Helm out of Texas. So that's it. And that's it for our position rankings. We'll have an episode next week where we kind of go through some final thoughts, some sleepers that we like in this rookie class that could be, day 3 picks. Talk about a couple players that, since our positional ranking shows, I have improved my position on a little bit, bumped them up a spot or 2, and just some things that I'm looking for in the NFL draft, which of course is coming up here in 2 weeks in Green Bay. So it's a really awesome time of year if you're a football fan and you're into Dynasty. So your leagues hopefully will be picking up in activity over the next month and get some trades going. I had a busy day yesterday in one of my leagues making a whole bunch of trades. So send those offers out, get things moving, and get ready for the NFL draft. And we'll again have our big final rookie rankings. That episode will come out right after the NFL draft concludes. We'll probably record that on Saturday evening after the draft and then publish that first thing Sunday morning following the draft. Unless we get it done at a good time. Hey, we'll try to get them out. If we can get them out at a reasonable time on Saturday, we'll do that. But given the nature of everything, we're going to aim for Sunday morning. Make sure that you have some rankings to listen to and get ready to go for your rookie drafts. If you have anything that begins immediately following the draft. I know a lot of leagues like to get their drafts started right away and, everyone wants to get their minds on the rankings and how things might shake out to be ready for your leagues. So thank you all for listening. This is the Dynasty War Room podcast. My name is Andrew Valancourt, and we will talk to you all next week.